Hi, welcome to the line. In studio, we have David Sexauer. Sexauer, what a great name, man. DAS Consulting. Really, one of those managed service providers that we all need. It's a necessary, really fundamental part of running a business today. You got to have someone to support your IT, help you figure out how to make this part of a solution and use these tools, right? They're supposed to be tools.
Should be.
To grow our business. And what you guys have done have really kind of shaped yourselves differently and focused on a vertical, in nonprofits. And really cool story on not only, what your organization is made up and the who is in there, but the why behind it and then how you do it, right? So all those components. How'd you get this started? What made this, what inspired you to go down this path?
So I was a teacher and a coach for 10 years. Loved serving in the private school, nonprofit world, trying to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Ended up with a wife and 7 kids, and the economic realities of supporting a family that large and what you can make as a private school teacher kind of hit me right in the face. So my last couple of positions, I had been a technology coordinator, so I had done technology for these private schools. I'd also done some contracting work on the side, and that's where I really made the money that allowed me to support the family. Mm-hmm. So we ended up with our last couple of babies. They were twins, baby 6 and 7. Mm-hmm. I realized doing this as a staff member at a nonprofit wasn't going to cut it. So I went out, worked for somebody for a year, and then started my own business.
Awesome.
And didn't get to start just doing nonprofits, but my first client was a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. And over the years, we eventually kind of culled apart the different organizations that were small and medium-sized businesses and moved them on to other places and started focusing really on the nonprofit world because that's what we understood.
And I think it's what's brilliant about this and really what I want our people that follow the show to watch or to learn from. It's like, grow rich in a niche, but it's always one of those things we say. But one of the things that you do is when you focus on a niche, you start to understand the nuances of their business. Mm-hmm. And those insights create breakthroughs. Right. And those breakthroughs, when you apply a methodology like you guys have, you can really start to differentiate yourself from your competition. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's, I came from that world, so I had an understanding of what it was like. But it took me a while to build a staff that also understood that. Mm-hmm. And then once we had the people in place, it was developing the systems and methodologies. Mm-hmm. That took some time. But our business is definitely shaped around our niche, and it's been fantastic for us.
Cool. So you got the right who, right, mm-hmm. which is always hard. The who that knew how to serve the target, but what's also powerful is the story, right? And as a marketer, what you're always trying to look for is what is my unfair competitive advantage, and your story has to really resonate that. Right. And are you seeing that? Is that coming out now that you got the who aligned to the story?
Yeah, because there aren't a whole lot of companies that even focus the nonprofit space. Mm-hmm. It's just been one of those things where, they're nonprofits. They don't have any money. They're not going to spend any money. But as technology has changed, and almost every industry now is dependent on the technology to do what they do, it's been great because they have the money and they're spending it. So it's about meeting their needs, and how can you do that best? Well, you got to focus on that, and so we have.
So give us some examples of how you've uniquely created service offerings to in an answer to the unique problems that go along with being a nonprofit.
So nonprofits are run by boards, and there's this interesting relationship between the staff. You've got an executive director or a president CEO. You've got a board chair, and then the executive committee and the boards. And then you've got volunteers because it's a nonprofit and they're engaged. And then you've got the rest of the staff that are actually working. And it's the rest of the staff that is actually the client that you're trying to serve. But if you don't understand the dynamics, the relationship dynamics between all those different groups, it's really hard to be successful. It doesn't matter how good you are at the technology. If you don't understand the relationship dynamics, it's challenging. And so we have a way that we make sure we engage all those different stakeholders, both the volunteers, the board members, the administration, and the staff. And it's very challenging, but it's very rewarding when you get it right. When you don't, which can sometimes still happen, you end up having to kind of move on. But when you get it right, it works out amazingly well.
So just think about it. Here's a business where, really could be called a commodity type business. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs it. All the small businesses, all the SMBs need to have an organization like yours. But you guys have used communication, really like a master's degree in communication, a master's degree in politics, to really become part of your unfair advantage because you're right, the dynamics that those things create. I mean, a lot of guys in your space would either get frustrated, would not understand how to get something done, would create more problems and headaches than they're actually creating solutions.
Right.
And that's a pretty big unfair advantage, knowing that politics and knowing what's going in there to make that happen.
Yeah, we still get frustrated. There's no doubt. I don't want to paint a completely rosy picture. But it's the why for us that we start with is, why are we doing this? Well, we're trying to make a difference. And so the organizations we work with, even when you have a board member that's kind of doing their own thing, or a group of volunteers that has different ideas, or an administrator that doesn't necessarily have some of the leadership skills in the area of technology, we deal with it. And we're happy to deal with it. Sometimes not as happy as we need to be, but it's about the mission. We're working with schools, and so it's about the kids and the families. We're working with food banks and Catholic charities and organizations that are doing the most for the least. And so when you have that in your head and you're clearly focused on what the goal is, you can put up with the again, I call them relationship dynamics. People would use the term politics, whatever you call it. We're dealing with people. Yeah. And if you're trying to help people, you got to work through that stuff to be successful.
David Sexauer, leading with why at Dask Consulting. Great having you on the show, man.
All right, thanks.